All right. Good evening, everybody. It's late, it's raining, I'm tired, I've been exhausted all day. I don't know if it's exhaustion or boredom. I can't tell the difference sometimes, you know? Because sometimes you're so tired but then something piques your interest and all of a sudden you're not tired anymore, you know? Anyway, I'm not sure which it was today. But now I'm pumped up. I just left a meeting with an excellent presentation of a technical nature. It's awesome. It was awesome. There's a company called Snowflake. So if you're interested in technical stuff, database related stuff, maybe you might want to check them out. Snowflake.net. Very cool stuff. So what's the deal with John McCain? Everywhere I mean, driving up on the interstate, I see these billboards with John. It's like, what the heck, man? You know, talk about being force-fed. Holy smokes. I don't want to see John McCain's picture. I mean, I'm not happy about the fact that he's gone. But it's not that big of a deal, really. I mean, he's a politician, right? They're treating him like he's a celebrity. It's ridiculous. No wonder these politicians become so corrupt. You know, we hire them to do a job, and then we start treating them like celebrities. Man, it's ridiculous. But that is what I want to talk about, actually. So my preacher on Sunday, this is going to crack you up. It cracked me up. It's cracking me up right now. Actually, it didn't crack me up at the time because I try to reserve judgment of time when I have time to think about things, you know? It's like I try not to be knee-jerk, you know? So I didn't really have that strong of a reaction on Sunday. But as the week goes on, every day unfolds, the more I think about it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is hilarious. This is really quite unbelievable. I had to do a little research, too, to be honest with you, because I'm thinking this is kind of weird, but I'm not sure, so I need to look into it, you know? So he compared John McCain to Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa. Tell me that's not funny. How do you get from John McCain? Okay, here's the connection. Here's the connection. Mother Teresa's birthday was Sunday. And John McCain died last week. I mean, you really got to want to make a connection. I mean, you really got to want that connection bad, right? I mean, come on. Mother Teresa was born on August, whatever it was, 26th or whatever, 19, 20, 30, 40, something like that, you know? And John McCain dies on August 24th, 23rd, 27th. I mean, look, I know that some people like John McCain. I have no idea why. I mean, you know, except for the fact that they spend billions of dollars promoting him as this God among men, you know. I mean, he's just, you know, but I mean, the reality is what? I mean, I don't know what the reality is. All I have is my opinion, you know. So I'm just going to give you my opinion of what the reality is. The reality is that he's a crook, right? Or he was a crook. He's gone now. The reality is he was a crook and a warmonger, you know, a friend of terrorists, a funder of terrorists. You know, he's part of that whole Hegelian dialectic, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Henry Kissinger, Foreign Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral. He's part of that whole sort of universe of people who think it's intellectual and sophisticated to sit around calculating how many people can benefit by X number of people being killed, right? That's you might know what I'm talking about. There was this movie came out about 15, 20 years ago. I believe it was called The Watchmen. And it was hailed as this great intellectual work, a cartoon for adults. Oh, so impressive. Oh, and you go, and I went and watched the movie. And I'm sitting through the whole movie. I'm just like, this entire movie is just about justifying the murder of tens of millions of people. That's all it's about. And that's the history of the world, right? I mean, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, all the usual suspects. And come on, there's more than that. It's just we get drilled into our heads the certain chosen few that they want us to know about for whatever reason. God only knows, like they say, history is the polemics of the victor, or history is written by the winner, So we're just learning the very specific, very partisan, very biased, very cherry-picked history that the people in charge want us to learn for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's very intricate. I'm sure it's very sick. I'm sure it's very whatever. So I mean, we know the usual suspects, but I'm sure that it's like a criminal that robs a dozen convenience stores and he gets caught on his last convenience store. Everybody assumes that he tried to rob a convenience store and he got caught. No, he successfully robbed a dozen. He didn't get caught until he robbed his 13th. So these people that run around killing millions of people, they're probably 1 out of 10. The other 9 got away with it. They're like John McCain. They're held up as heroes. They're treated like they're celebrities because of their power. Because people worship power. They love it. You're so powerful. Because look, every powerful person from Saddam Hussein on down, they make somebody's life better. They don't go after killing everybody. They just pick a group that they want to kill and they go after them. Pol Pot went after people that wore glasses because they were a representation of intellectualism. So if you looked smart, he killed you. That's a classic dictator. They don't like challenges. They don't like competition. They don't like, like they say, they would rather be a classic dictator is somebody who would rather control 100% of 10 as opposed to controlling 1% of a million, or 1% of a billion, or 1% of a trillion, even though 10 is a ridiculously smaller number than 1% of a million. Let's figure out real quick what 1% of a million would be. So 10% of a million would be 100,000, if I'm not mistaken. I'm driving and multitasking here, so I think that's right. 100,000. 10% of a million is 100,000. And 10% of 10%, which would be 1%. 10% of 100,000 would be what? 10,000, right? So dictators would rather have total control over 10 units, 10 states, 10 units of monetary value, 10 armies, 10 soldiers, 10. They'd rather have 100% control over that as opposed to 100% of control over 10,000, because the 10,000 is only 1% of a greater whole, right? That's the mind of a dictator. So they're very regressive. They're very stupid. They're very backward. They're very evil. They're very degenerate. They're very depraved people that have that mindset, So anyway, I don't know how I got off on all that stuff about dictators, but let's see, I was talking about people that kill a lot of people, and that the people that we know about are only the people that they teach us about. Incidentally, I'm going to go off on yet another digression. I've been thinking recently, what does it mean to be a billionaire? I think one of the things that it means, if you're the bad kind, because there's good ones and there's bad ones. There's good poor people, there's bad poor people, there's good middle class, there's bad middle class, there's good billionaires, there's bad billionaires, But if you're the bad one, what it means is that you can wake up in the morning and you can grunt, right? Your desire. You can communicate your desire, however you do it. Grunting, talking, just waving your hand, whatever. You have people that know what you want, so you don't really have to do a lot to communicate. You have you handpick your assistants to be the kind of assistant that requires minimal everything. Minimal attention, minimal communication, minimal clarification, minimal everything. So you can basically grunt your intention, and they know what you mean, and they go and do it. That's the kind of assistant you look for when you're really wealthy. I think, my belief. I'm not wealthy, so I don't know, but that's the kind of assistant I would look for. I wouldn't be looking for somebody I have to explain every little thing to. If I could just go like this and they know what I mean, okay, you're in. You're my number one man. And then I do like this another time, and they know what I mean, even though it's not anything like what I meant the last time I did this, right? So, but what it means is when you're a billionaire is that you can wake up and you can just make a decision that day that 100,000 textbooks are going to say thus. Whatever it is you decide they want them to say. You own the publishing companies. Let's say you own the top 3 or the top 4 publishing companies. Well, let's say you're financially savvy enough such that you don't actually own them, but you own a controlling interest, right? You get maximum power from minimal and personal investment, maximum influence, maximum control for minimal personal investment. So however you got it arranged, you can just wake up and say 100,000 textbooks say thus. And these textbook companies that you own, they happen to be the provider for all of the best universities. So now you've established a standard for all, not just the best, but for all of them, because all of them want to emulate the best, right? So now you've established an ideological standard, you've established a doctrinal standard, you've established a standard of fact, right? That's what I mean. That's why I said history is the opinion of the winner. It's whatever the winner wants it to be. That's what the history is. That's probably why in so many cases when there's a military victory, they go in and they burn all the books, they burn all the libraries, they burn all the records of their defeated foe because they want to rewrite everything. So now I was talking about John McCain, I was talking about Mother Teresa and the parallel being made. So John McCain, I like I said, these were digressions. I don't know how I got off on these things, but John McCain he's like a mobster, man. Now I know everybody doesn't believe that. I know he's got this celebrity status. I see these billboards everywhere with this big watermelon head sticking up there, like, oh, John McCain. It's like, who cares, man? He's a senator from Arizona. I mean, he's a politician. Since when do we care about politicians like that? Like we worship these personalities. But that is my experience with Democrats. And you say, well, John McCain was a Republican. No, he was called a maverick because his favorite thing to do was to stab Republicans in the back. Okay? So whatever his official letter was, that's not what he was. He was, I don't know if he was a pragmatist or if he was kind of like Bill Clinton, he just did whatever was good for him, or I don't think so. I think that he was like a dyed-in-the-wool traitor down to his DNA, Supposedly his 4-star admiral father and his 4-star admiral grandfather, supposedly they were notoriously corrupt themselves, So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. You got this group of people saying what I'm saying. You got this other group of people over here worshiping him, and I'm just like, okay, well, I know he shouldn't be worshipped. I know he shouldn't be compared to Mother Teresa. I'm not sure he's as bad as all of this, but I'm kind of inclined to believe that he is kind of as bad as all that. They have pictures of him shaking hands with ISIS fighters before ISIS even existed. these guys that he was meeting with became the leaders of ISIS. I mean, he helped Obama and Hillary create ISIS, because that's the whole Hegelian dialectic thing. You have to create a crisis so you can ride in like the savior on the white horse to quote unquote save everybody, from the crisis that you created, but nobody knows you created it. So that's the whole Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, the big new Brzezinski, Henry. That's that whole brainiac, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush. That's that whole skull and bones, secret societies, cults of power, where they just manipulate and move people around like pawns on a chessboard. And we're going to take down this country, we're going to take down that country, we're going to, Supposedly the continent of Africa is in the shape that it's in because of this Hegelian dialectic type of thinking, where it's like the world is just basically a resource to be exploited. And I don't mean like we go dig up the diamonds or go dig up the gold. I mean like we manipulate people, and if whoever's between us and that gold, we don't negotiate with them fairly. We just like steamroll right over them, and that's that's why Africa's the way it is. South America used to be back like as early as 1970s. Used to have nations that were wealthier, in terms of per capita and just maybe not like gross, but wealthier per capita than the United States. For example. There used to be a phrase, from what I understand, called Argentine wealthy. Are you wealthy or are you Argentine wealthy? Because if you're Argentine wealthy, that's like a whole another class of wealth. That's like a higher class of wealth over and above Western civilization's notion of being wealthy. So, but the communist, the whole, and again, Karl Marx is heralded as this great quote-unquote intellect. He's not an intellectual. Marx is an idiot. I mean, nothing that guy ever proposed has ever actually worked, and all it's ever done is resulted in tens and hundreds of millions of people being trampled in the mud like worse than like livestock. But it's that whole thing, and that whole sphere of political thought and theory and practice. It's an exercise in insanity. Now I realize how I got off on those rabbit trails. This is the sphere that John McCain was a champion for, That's why I would have to assume that's why he's a Republican, because in this sphere, it's all about deception. It's all about mimicry. It's all about being a mole and a spy so that you can get in on the inner workings of your political enemies and destroy them from within, right? And that's basically the story of John McCain's political life, was the destruction of the Republican Party from within. Just constant sabotage. And the media and the Democrats love the guy. I mean, specifically for that reason. He was basically their man on the inside. So this guy's like, he's like a model of corruption, a model of evil, a model of deception, a model of Hegelian weird manipulation and power freakish obsession and control. I mean, and here he is being compared to Mother Teresa. Like what? Like, dude, have you lost your mind? I mean, look, if you want to say John McCain was a great man, say, okay, go ahead, whatever. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but you're really jumping the shark, bro, when you compare John McCain to Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was down in the squalor, of Calcutta and everywhere else. I read an account of Mother Teresa and her nunnery or operation or whatever it's called down in Miami, and her ladies down there, her nuns, they were not allowed electricity, which means they had no refrigerator and no air conditioner in Miami. So they had to get food every day, and like I said, they had no electricity. They had candlelight. That's the life of Mother. John McCain lives a life like a billion. I mean, he probably is a billionaire. All these high-level politicians, especially the secret society Foreign Council on Foreign Relations, friends of Zbigniew Brzezinski, Skull and Bones. I mean, these guys have bank accounts in places that we don't even know they have banks. You know, everybody knows about Swiss banks, but I mean, come on. The Vatican has a bank. Supposedly, John Roberts, chief, whatever it's called, of the Supreme Court, has $1 billion in the Vatican bank. I mean, I don't know. You know, you hear this stuff, and everybody wants you to just by default, you know, believe it's not true. Oh, that's not true. Well, how do you know? I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's not true. It sounds plausible to me. I mean, there's just so much money floating around, and you know, $1 billion. I mean, these guys probably exchange $1 billion favors over lunch. I mean, that's, you know, that's just kind of where they are. So, but regardless, whether John McCain was a billionaire or not, you know, with secret bank accounts here and there and 42 different identities and, you know, this and that, secret lives and secret houses and secret this and secret that, you know, regardless of whether that's true, I mean, come on, the guy lived an unbelievably privileged life, you know? And you're going to go and compare him to Mother Teresa? Man, it's like, man, this is like Looney Tunes, man. This is like, you know, this is just, this Democrat zeal Democrat Party zeal is just like Looney Tunes. It's like a cult. It's like literally like a cult. It's like, can't you see how much of a fool you're making out of yourself? Comparing a politician like John McCain, who starts wars and who creates organizations like ISIS and who runs around stabbing his colleagues in the back and earns the praise of every traitor and coward in the land. Now you're going to go and compare him to Mother Teresa? I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable, man. It's like, dude, you like jumped the shark, and for what reason? Is somebody paying you? I mean, what's the point? Is this just like, is this like cult zeal, or what is this? Because it's really inexplicable. I mean, it's really just inexplicable. I mean, the way the leaders of my church use that church to promote their partisan zeal is just really inexplicable. Unless there's some kind of benefit somewhere, again, hidden, because all this stuff is hidden. I think it might just be partisan zeal. That's my opinion. I'm not sure. Because listen, my experience is Democrats are crazy. They're just crazy. My grandmother, big Democrat, crazy Democrat. I mean, crazy Democrat. She had this picture over her bed, and until I was 36 years old, I thought that was my grandfather, because I just saw it. I didn't really even think about it. I just saw it my entire life, and you know, you see something 100 times, after a while you just start ignoring it. You don't even pay attention to it, you know. So you see it when you're a little kid, it looks kind of like your grandfather maybe-ish when he was younger, you know, whatever. You don't really think about it, because anybody with a picture over their bed, you just assume that's your that's somebody near and dear to the family, you know. It wasn't my grandfather, it was FDR. When I finally realized it was FDR, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Who has a picture of a politician over their bed? My grandmother. I mean, so that's my experience. Maybe that's why I'm such a crazy Republican, because these Democrats are crazy. They're like cult members, man. They worship these people. And I'm driving down the interstate, I'm seeing these billboards for John McCain, and I'm like, John McCain? Who the heck cares about John McCain down in Florida? I mean, who even cares? John McCain. I mean, he's just some bozo on TV that runs around making a fool out of himself. I mean, there's some amazing bloopers of John McCain. Amazing. I mean, what in the world? And then I go to church and the preacher like, oh yeah, John McCain and Mother Teresa. I'm like, what? Man, we are living in a messed up, crazy town world. It's messed up and crazy town around here. John McCain. Woo! Well, I tell you what, I don't know where John McCain is. I hope he's in heaven, but man, if I was God, he showed up at my pearly gates, I'd be like, whoo, this is a tough one right here. Let me tell you, I want to let you in, man, but you know all those Iraqi children that you murdered? What am I supposed to do about that? Seriously, why don't you tell me, John McCain, what I'm supposed to do about all those Iraqi children that you and Madeleine Albright and everybody said, 500,000 children for stability in the region? Oh, it's probably worth it, yeah. I mean, Madeleine Albright literally said that it was worth it to murder 500,000 children with bombs and whatever else. I mean, man. And here we are, beautifying John McCain. He's probably like a devil-worshipping drinker of children's blood. That's what the elite do. That's what the whole Dracula thing, and Prince Charles just recently bought Dracula's castle. Prince Charles is obsessed with Transylvania. So I think 6 months out of the year now, he lives in Dracula's castle. Dracula, by the way, is Vlad the Impaler, and there's a whole backstory to that too. But anyway, man, I don't know if that's true or not. But just the circle of the elite and the power. See, if you want to know how the elite think, really, and then you want to know how they think, and then you want to take it to the extreme, all this stuff about pedophilia, drinking, sacrificing children's blood to harvest the, what's it called? It's something that your body creates when you're experiencing extreme terror and pain. So they torture these kids. I think it comes with a pituitary gland or something. I'm not sure. It's a satanic practice, and they torture these kids, and then they drink their blood, and they get like literally like a. It's like a drug, you know, some kind of drug. It's like, I guess, whatever. It's some kind of thing. But if you want to know how a person goes from being normal to that kind of crazy town, which everybody's not going to agree that that's what the elite do, but I think everybody would agree, if they were pressed, everybody would agree that somebody does that somewhere. Somebody somewhere practices Satanism. Somebody somewhere practices child sacrifice. Somebody somewhere, okay, might not want to admit it, but, you know, just reasonably, rationally, you'd have to admit that somebody somewhere does it. It was the very opening scene to the show House of Cards, okay? The opening scene. Kevin Spacey, obviously Kevin Spacey, pedophile, kicked off the show. I don't know if he's in jail. I don't know what his deal is, but, you know, he lost that show. What they have, like 8 seasons? It was a great show. I watched it. And you know, fashioned after Bill and Hillary. So, I mean, they make them out to be these kind of like a flawed heroes and a flawed heroine. And it's just, you know. Anyway, it is what it is. Whatever. It's a great show, though. It's well done. Kevin Spacey, is a great actor. You know, he's really good at his craft, but he's also a pedophile. You know, and so this dog got hit by a car in the opening scene to this show, House of Cards. Kevin Spacey goes over there and he's like, you know, looking right into the camera with that really melodramatic, you know, type of a thing that actors are really good at. That's why they're actors, because they're good at that type of thing. And he says something to the effect of, the art of leadership is doing what needs to be done. And he breaks the dog's neck. Okay, so that's it. I mean, that's how the elite think in a nutshell. That's how you go from being I'm just, for lack of a better word, a normal person. That's how you go from being a normal person, being somebody like Joseph Stalin, who starves 8 million of his own countrymen, okay, so that 30 million can have better lives. Okay, that's the thought process. And that's how, in that show, The Watchmen, that was exactly, like very explicitly, that was exactly the thought process. And if you saw the most recent Avengers show, I forget what it's called because I'm not into that stuff, that's exactly what that was. The big dude, Josh Brolin, the big guy with the giant head and the giant chin, anyway, and he had to wipe out half